The firing squad has gotten the green light in South Carolina to do executions as of last month. And this is Richard Moore. He was sentenced to death in 1999 for the fatal shooting of James Mahoney. James was a convenience store clerk in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Moore is one of 3 death row prisoners in South Carolina who has ran out of appeals in the past year. This is leaving the state Supreme Court to set and then stay their executions after the Corrections Department said it didn't have the drugs that was needed to carry out the executions by lethal injection. Richard Moore is a South Carolina inmate. He is set to die either by the firing squad or in an electric chair later this month, and he's asking the state Supreme Court to halt his execution. Lawyers for Richard Moore, who is 57 years old, say he should not face execution until judges can determine if either method is cruel and unusual punishment. Moore is set to die on April the 29th unless a court steps in. He has until next Friday to choose between a South Carolina's electric chair, which has been used only twice in the past 30 years, or being shot by 3 volunteers who are prison workers in rules to the state's finalization last month. South Carolina Corrections has finished updating the death chamber to prepare for executions by firing squad. Moore has spent more than 2 decades on death row after he was convicted of killing convenience store clerk James Mahoney in Spartanburg. Moore could face a choice between the electric chair and the firing squad, 2 options available to death row prisoners after legislators altered the state's capital punishment law last year and in an effort to work around a decade-long pause in executions attributed to the correction agency's inability to procure lethal injection drugs. The new law made the electric chair the state's primary means of execution, while giving prisoners the option of choosing death by firing squad or lethal injections, if those methods are available. The state corrections agency said last month it had finished developing protocols for firing squad executions and completed a $53,600 worth of innovations on the death chamber in Columbia, installing a new metal chair with restraints that faces a wall with a rectangular opening 15 feet away. In the case of a firing squad execution, 3 volunteer shooters who are all correction department employees. These employees will each have a rifle loaded with live ammunition. Their weapons will be aimed on the inmate's heart. A hood will be placed over the head of the inmate, who will be given the opportunity to make a last statement. South Carolina is one of 8 states to still use the electric chair and one of only 4 to allow a firing squad. Moore is one of 35 men on the South Carolina's death row. He has exhausted his federal appeals in 2020, and the state Supreme Court denied his last appeal this week. The state last scheduled an execution for Moore in 2020, which was then delayed after prison officials said they could not obtain the lethal injection drugs. During his 2001 trial, prosecutions say that he entered the store looking for money to support his cocaine habit and got into a dispute with Mahoney, who drew a pistol that Moore wrestled away from him. Mahoney then pulled a second gun, and a gunfight ensued. Mahoney shot Moore in the arm, and Moore shot Mahoney in the chest. Prosecutors say that Moore left a trail of blood through the store as he looked for cash, stepping twice over the deceased Mahoney. At the time, Moore claimed that he acted in self-defense after Mahoney drew the gun first. Moore supporters have argued that his crime does not rise to the level of heinous in other death penalty cases in the state. His appeals lawyer have always said that because Moore did not bring a gun into the store, He couldn't have intended to kill someone when he walked in. South Carolina's last execution was in 2011 when Jeffrey Mott's on death row. It was for strangling a cellmate while serving a life sentence for another murder. He abandoned all of his appeals and opted for the death chamber.
The man is set to be South Carolina's first execution since adding the firing squad to its options. 57-year-old Richard Moore has spent more than 2 decades on death row. He was convicted of killing convenience store clerk James Mahoney. His execution is scheduled for April 29th. He can choose between the electric chair or the firing squad. His execution was originally set for December 2020, but had to be delayed because South Carolina could not buy any lethal injection drugs.
Now, he does have supporters, and his defense is fighting this issue, of course, and they will until April the 29th, which is the day that he has to make the choice on his execution. Now, here's the thing. Many states have different circumstances to what brings the death penalty. Some of his supporters are saying because it was not premeditated, because he did not go into the establishment with any sort of weapon. It wasn't premeditated. The victim shot first, he claims, and things of that nature, that he shouldn't have been handed the death penalty. South Carolina, their murder charges and the circumstances surrounding the death penalty, actually, he should have been handed the death penalty under their rules and regulations. Actually, the very first one here, the murder occurred during the commission of another dangerous felony such as burglary or kidnapping. So he was in the store. He did burglarize the store. So even the very first one would say that he was eligible for the death penalty. Now, I know a lot of people do not support the death penalty, and I don't on some things, and then there is some that I do, but that's neither here nor there. Also, number 3, the defendant acted in a public place and knowingly endangered the lives of multiple people. Well, going in to burglarize the store? Well, yeah, I mean, what did he think? You know, that was a public place, a public store. So that as well would have put the death penalty on the table for him. Now, the mitigating circumstances, some people, it's arguably that some people could say possibly that he was in a period of mental disturbance because he was intoxicated on cocaine and he was a cocaine addict. And now that drug addiction is classified as a disease, that could be a mitigating circumstance, but I don't see it happening. And also, it could possibly be that the defense could even go on to say the last one, the defendant was provoked by the victim. So, all in all of his appeals has been denied, and I just do not see this turning around at all. I do see that he will have to make the choice of the electric chair or the firing squad by April the 20th, which is his execution date. What do you guys think below? Tell me what you think about this case. Thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, this is Unjustified Crimes.